let's now consider the case of pessimism. I left it empty, whether it's consumer pessimism or investor pessimism. Let's be very clear and make it domestic pessimism on the part of consumers and investors. That way, this could be domestic, it needs to be domestic, because I don't want it to be affecting net exports and global trade. But we're thinking of something that leaves consumers and investors more pessimistic, which means step one to our analysis is translating the shock into a factor that moves curves. And so pessimism on the consumer and the investor part really means some decline in consumption and or a decline in investment. So I could have been specific and said, okay, suppose it's investor pessimism and then it's decline in I, or consumer pessimism, it's decline in C. Either way, fundamentally this lowers aggregate demand. So to conduct our analysis, step one is always to take the shock and convert it into one of the factors. Those factors are factors of aggregate demand. So in the short run, we have this decline in C or decline in I generates, so this says a drop in C and or I generates a drop in aggregate demand. Now we put that into our graph. A drop in aggregate demand looks like this. The price level falls and output falls. You're at full employment when you're here at the natural rate of unemployment, so when output falls, unemployment actually goes up. This is an increase in unemployment. So the short run answer, in my opinion, is a decline in the price level to P naught, a decline in real GDP to Y prime, this should be also Y prime, and an increase in unemployment to U prime. Okay. What is the adjustment mechanism that gets us back to long-run equilibrium? So remember, this long-run aggregate supply curve acts like an anchor. In the long run, we may move off, but we'll come back to here as long as nothing fundamental like land, labor, technology, or capital has changed. In this case, the price level has fallen. Now, when we started in equilibrium here, at that old short-run aggregate supply curve, everybody was expecting this price level. So they were expecting that price level. In today's world, aggregate demand has fallen and it stayed down. So we could consider a very temporary shock where it falls and comes back. Probably nothing else would happen. It would decline and return. But if it falls and stays down, over time, everybody in the economy becomes adapted to the new environment, and they no longer expect this old price level. They begin to expect a lower price level. As a matter of fact, it'd be kind of stupid to be sitting down here and expecting this old price level. So eventually you adjust your expectations downward. Now, they don't expect this price level. They actually expect this one. And that we could put it here so that we get that in. So to get us to the long run, we see a decline in the expected price level, which increases the short run aggregate supply. That in turn pushes the price level down further to here. We had fallen from here all the way down to here. It pushes output back up. So we were here and we've now returned back to here, back up to full employment. And at full employment, that means unemployment must have fallen back to its natural rate. What's our prediction? If there's a wave of pessimism in the economy that's long-term, that's sustainable, people become a little depressed or a little cautious or a little concerned about the economy, well, we predict in the short run a drop in aggregate demand. We think we'll see a drop in real GDP and a fall in the price level, and unemployment will rise. Over time, however, as this works its way through the system, you're in a recession here. This is a recession. During that recession, wage growth slows, or wages may actually fall. This dampens price pressure across the economy, makes input prices a little cheaper for firms, makes labor costs a little cheaper for firms, and as that happens, they expand their output again, and that pushes the short-run aggregate supply out to the right. Eventually, you return to your long-run equilibrium, but you're now at a lower price level.